Hello, my name is Jiso and I'm reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō, and as you can tell my background is different. That's because I'm in Copenhagen. We are reading Gyobutsu-Yuigi, which means the Dignified Behaviour of Acting Buddha. Okay, I'm on paragraph 113. In expounding the Buddha's truth, people usually say that beings born from the womb and born from metamorphosis are the action of the Buddha's truth, but they never mention beings born from moisture or born from eggs. Still less have they ever realized, even in a dream, that even beyond this birth from the womb, eggs, moisture and metamorphosis, there is birth. How much less could they see, hear or sense that beyond birth from the womb, eggs, moisture and metamorphosis, there is birth from the womb, eggs, moisture and metamorphosis. In the present great truth of the Buddhas and patriarchs, the fact that beyond birth from the womb, eggs, moisture and metamorphosis, there is birth from the womb, eggs, moisture and metamorphosis has been authentically transmitted in the state of never having been hidden, and has been authentically transmitted in the state of immediacy. As what kind of group should we see those who will not hear, will not learn, will not recognize, and will not clarify this expression of the truth? We have heard already about the 4 kinds of birth. For death, how many kinds are there? Might there be, for the 4 kinds of birth, 4 kinds of death? Or might there be 3 kinds of death or 2 kinds of death? Again, might there be 5 deaths, 6 deaths, thousands of deaths, or myriad deaths? Even merely to doubt this principle is a kind of learning in practice. Let us consider for a while, among the miscellaneous beings born from these 4 kinds of birth, could there be any which have birth but no death? And are there any which receive a single-line transmission of only death, without receiving a single-line transmission of birth? We must unfailingly study in practice the existence or non-existence of kinds which solely are born or which solely die. There are those who merely hear the phrase non-birth without clarifying it, seeming to set aside effort with body and mind. It is the utmost stupidity. They must be called a kind of animal which cannot arrive at even discussion of devotional and dharma practice, or of instantaneous and gradual realization. The reason is that even if they hear the words being without birth, they need to ask, what is the intention of this expression of the truth? They utterly fail to consider whether it might mean Buddha as being without, the truth as being without, the mind as being without, or cessation as being without. Or whether it might mean non-birth as being without, or whether it might mean the world of Dharma as being without, or the Dharma nature as being without, or whether it might mean death as being without. This is because they are as idly absent-minded as water weeds. Remember, living and dying is the action of the Buddha's truth, and living and dying is a tool in the Buddha's house. In using it, we should use it carefully. In clarifying it, we are able to be clear. Therefore, Buddhas are utterly clear in this penetration and non-penetration, and are utterly able in this careful use. If you are unclear in regard to this living and dying, who can say that you are yourself? Who can call you a character who has comprehended life and mastered death? You cannot hear that you are immersed in living and dying. You cannot know that you exist in living and dying. You cannot believe and accept that living and dying is living and dying, and you can neither be beyond understanding nor beyond knowing. Some express the notion that Buddhas appear in the world only in the human state, never manifesting themselves in other directions or in other states. If it is as they say, must every place where Buddhas are present be a human state? That is a human Buddha's expression of the truth that I alone am the honoured one. They may also be God Buddhas, and there may also be Buddha Buddhas. Those who say that Buddhas manifest themselves only in the human domain do not enter deep beyond the threshold of the Buddhist patriarchs. An ancestral patriarch says, Shakyamuni Buddha, having received the transmission of the right Dharma from Kasyapa Buddha, went to Tusita heaven to teach the gods of Tusita, and he is still there now. Truly, we should remember, although at that time the Shakyamuni of the human world spread the teaching which was the manifestation of his extinction, the Shakyamuni of the heavens above is still there now, teaching the gods. Students should know that the existence of the speech, the action and the preaching of the Shakyamuni of the human world, though of thousandfold changes and myriad transformations, are only one corner in the human domain of his radiance of brightness and his manifestation of good omens. We should not stupidly fail to recognize that the teaching of the Shakyamuni of the heavens above might also be of thousandfold kinds and myriad aspects. The fundamental point, which transcends severance of the great truth authentically transmitted from Buddha to Buddha, and which has gotten free of being without beginning and without end, has been authentically transmitted only in Buddhism. It is a virtue that other sorts neither know nor hear. At places where acting Buddha establishes the teaching, there exists At places where acting Buddha establishes the teaching, there exist living beings beyond the four kinds of birth, and there exist places beyond the heavens above, the human domain, the world of Dharma, and the like. When you want to glimpse the dignified behaviour of acting Buddha, do not use your eyes of the heavens above or the human world, and do not employ the sentimental thinking of the heavens above or the human world. Do not aim to fathom dignified behaviour by such means. Even bodhisattvas in the 10 sacred and 3 clever stages neither know it nor clarify it. How much less could the calculating intellect of the human world and the heavens above reach it? As human consideration is short and small, so too is knowledge-based wisdom short and small. As a lifetime is short and pressed, so too is the intellect short and pressed. How could it fathom the dignified behaviour of acting Buddhas? Thus, with regard to the lineage that simply takes the human world to be the Buddha Dharma and the lineage that narrowly takes human methods to be the Buddha Dharma, never permit that either the former or the latter are the Buddha's disciples. There are only ordinary beings as the results of karma. They have never experienced the hearing of Dharma through body and mind, and they have never possessed a body and mind that has practiced the truth. They do not live in conformity with Dharma. They do not die in conformity with Dharma. They do not see in conformity with Dharma. They do not hear in conformity with Dharma. They do not walk, stand, sit, and lie in conformity with Dharma. Groups like this have never experienced the moistening benefit of Dharma. The assertion that acting Buddha is neither in love with original enlightenment nor in love with initiated enlightenment, and is beyond not having enlightenment and beyond having enlightenment, describes just this principle. Such concepts as mindfulness and being without mindfulness, or having enlightenment and being without enlightenment, or initiated enlightenment and original enlightenment, which are excitedly considered by the common men of today, are solely the excited consideration of the common man. They are not what has been transmitted and received from Buddha to Buddha. The mindfulness of the common man and the mindfulness of the Buddhas are far apart. Never liken them. The common man's excited consideration of original enlightenment and the Buddha's real experience of original enlightenment are as far apart as heaven and earth. They are beyond comparison. Not even the vigorous consideration of bodhisattvas in the 10 sacred and 3 clever stages can arrive at the Buddha's state of truth. How could the common men who vainly count grains of sand fathom it? Yet there are many who, while merely giving excited consideration to the essentialist and trivialist false views of common men and non-Buddhists, conceive these views to be the state of the Buddhas. Essentialist and trivialist. Idealism and materialism, it says in a note. The Buddhas have said, the roots of wrongdoing of these fellows are deep and heavy, and they are beings to be pitied. Their deep and heavy roots of wrongdoing are limitless. At the same time, the deep and heavy burden is borne by these fellows themselves. For a while, they should let go of this deep and heavy burden, and put on eyes and look. They may take hold of their burden again and restrict themselves with it, but that is not the beginning of anything. The present unrestricted state of the dignified behaviour of acting Buddha is restricted by the state of Buddha, in which state, because the vigorous path of dragging through mud and staying in water has been mastered, there is no restriction. In the heavens above, the state of acting Buddha teaches gods. In the human world, it teaches human beings. It has the virtue of flowers opening, and it has the virtue of the occurrence of the world, without any gap between them at all. For this reason, it is far transcendent over self and others, and it has independent excellence in coming and going. Just here and now, it goes to Tusita heaven. Just here and now, it comes from Tusita heaven. Just here and now, it is just Tusita heaven here and now. Just here and now, it goes to peace and happiness. Just here and now, it comes from peace and happiness. Just here and now, it is just peace and happiness here and now. Just here and now, it is far transcendent over Tusita. Just here and now, it is far transcendent over peace and happiness. Just here and now, it smashes peace and happiness and Tusita into hundreds of bits and pieces. Just here and now, it holds on to and lets go of peace and happiness and Tusita. It swallows them whole in one gulp. Remember, peace and happiness and Tusita are akin to the Pure Land and to paradise, in that each turns in the circuit of mundane existence. When peace and happiness and Tusita are action, the Pure Land and paradise similarly are action. When the former are great realization, the latter similarly are great realization. When the former are great delusion, the latter similarly are great delusion. This state is, for the present, toes wiggling inside the sandals of acting Buddha. Sometimes it is the sound of a fart and the whiff of a shit. Those who have nostrils are able to smell it. With organs of hearing, organs of body, and organs of action, they hear it. There are also times when it gets my skin, flesh, bones, and marrow. Being attained through action, it has never got from others. When the great truth of understanding life and mastering death has already been mastered openly, there is an old expression for it, namely that great saints leave life and death at the mercy of the mind, leave life and death at the mercy of the body, leave life and death at the mercy of truth, and leave life and death at the mercy of life and death. Although the revelation of this principle is beyond past and present, the dignified behaviour of acting Buddhas is instantaneously practiced to the full. The truth being a cycle, the state of acting Buddha can, momentarily, intuit and affirm the import of life and death, and body and mind. Practicing to the full and clarifying to the full are not enforced actions. They greatly resemble a head being deluded and making out shadows, and they are totally akin to the turning of light and reflection. This brightness, which is brightness over brightness, permeates the meridians of acting Buddha and is utterly entrusted to the acting. To research this truth of moment by moment, To research this truth of moment by moment, utter entrustment, we must research the mind, utter entrustment. In the mountain-still state of such research, we discern and understand that 10,000 efforts are each the mind being evident, and the triple world is just that which is greatly removed from the mind. The discernment and understanding, while also of the myriad real dharmas, activate the homeland of the self. They make immediate and concrete the vigorous state of the human being in question. Then, in shaking the sieve 2 times and 3 times, grasping criteria within phrases and seeking expedients outside words, there is taking hold in excess of taking hold, and there is letting go in excess of letting go. Consideration therein is as follows. What is life, and what is death? What are body and mind? What are giving and taking away? What are leaving be and going against? Is this consideration a leaving and entering through a common gate without any meeting taking place? Is it a stone having been placed already? In which state, even if the body is concealed, the horns are showing through? Is it a stone having been placed already, in which state, even if the body is concealed, the horns are showing through? Horns of what? Is it immense consideration followed by understanding? Is it maturation of thought followed by knowing? Is it the one bright pearl? Is it the whole treasury of the teachings? Is it a staff? Is it a face and eyes? Does it follow after 30 years? Is it 10,000 years in one moment of consciousness? Investigating in concrete detail, we should make investigation itself concrete and detailed. When investigation is done in concrete detail, a whole eye hears sounds and a whole ear sees forms. Further, when a shramana's one eye is open and clear, this state is not only the real dharmas before the eyes, and this state is not only the facts before the eyes. There is a face of gentle countenance breaking into a smile, and there is the winking of an eye. There are the fleetingness of the dignified behaviour of acting Buddha. They are the fleetingness of the dignified behaviour of acting Buddha. Acting Buddha is not to be pulled by objects. It is to be beyond the pull of objects. It is beyond being without birth and without becoming in the process of dependent origination. It is beyond the original nature and the Dharma nature. It is beyond abiding in one's place in the Dharma. It is beyond the state of original existence, and it is not only the concrete affirmation of reality as it is nothing other than the acting Buddha of dignified behaviour. Thank you for listening.